Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens with your hosts, Jake and Scott. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about a unique experience we got to do in Frankfurt, Kentucky a couple weeks back. And we're going to give you a little bit of an update of what's happening in Kentucky with all the weather and flooding. So sit back and buckle into the latest episode of the Bourbon Lens. Scott, we survived the great tornadoes and flooding of 2025. Things I did not think would hit this close to home have hit really close to home over the last week and a half. So, did you get blown away? Did a house land on you? Are you the Wicked Witch of the West?
I think it would be like a tornado or a trampoline. Did a trampoline land on us? I mean, driving down the road, that's all I saw was
Oh man,
trampolines everywhere. Um, Somebody made Mother Nature very, very angry,
yeah,
and she has been a wicked witch.
she has. She's not been very nice.
Yeah, she's been a mean one.
And the hard part is, and I think people know this about me, but you know, spiritually, I'm definitely, inclined and go to church and all that stuff. And Jameson on the way to school today was because we passed by the Chick-fil-A that got like rampaged and Lexus and all of that. He's like, why does God allow tornadoes to happen? And I was like, that is a deep question that I don't know the answer to, my man. Some things are mysteries, and
Yeah,
we just kind of let that happen. And I don't know how to explain that to a 5-year-old. Uh, but you know what? You got to keep on moving when those deep theological questions happen, because kids say the darndest things.
we'll talk about that after the break.
Yeah,
Then
exactly.
you're like, all right, see you after school, kid.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, what song do you want to pick on Apple Music?
Yeah, let's divert your attention for
Yeah.
just a second.
For sure. But it was wild. I mean, 4 miles north of me. I mean, I don't even know if it's 4 miles, to be honest. It's a 7 minute drive from my house to where the EF3 tornado, 135-mile-per-hour winds, just kind of takes a jaunt right down Waterson Trail, up Plantside Drive, and then magically disappears for about 3 miles and then lands on the other side of 64 and Copperfield, and takes roofs off, and then disappears again. I mean, it is nuts how that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that it hit late at night in an industrial area was probably one of the best things that could have happened, right? I mean,
100%.
um, it obviously hit residential eventually, but damn, that was pretty scary.
It was. And I was kind of like on edge from Sunday night, right? Because there was a tornado that hit Fairdale. And we'd already gotten a lot of rain at that point. And I kind of let the kids sleep and I let Lauren sleep. I had an AirPod in, just listening to the news, like with my phone, put on one of those Belkin things that like charge your back of your phone while you're just sitting there. And like the sirens are going off and somebody's waking up. But Mark Weinberg said, it's starting to spin and it's near J-Town. And I was like, everybody, yep, we're going downstairs.
Yeah.
And that's the hard
Yeah.
part is like, man, you got to wake your kids up and that's an inconvenience, but I'd rather inconveniently be safe than be sorry for sure.
Yeah. And to have two events within 4 days,
Yeah.
3 nights, whatever it was, I mean, it kind of makes you, yeah, it makes you really on edge when it hits again.
Well, it does. And so those are the things that are close to home for us, right? Because the first storm kind of went right through your neck of the woods, too. And then, we've had a torrential amount of rain. Um, I mean, 13, 14 inches, I think, were some of the inches or some of the estimates. And the Ohio River flooded to things I've never seen before. Like it's literally you could walk out on Joe's Crab Shack's deck and like your eye level with the water. Never seen that in my life. Uh,
Yeah.
and you also have um, all that's got to back up somewhere, and it backed up into the Kentucky River as well, and unfortunately has flooded one of the most iconic distilleries in Kentucky in Buffalo Trace. And man, that's going to be a long road to hoe to get that thing cleaned up.
Yeah. I mean, I remember we went, was it about a year or two ago? We did the tour at Buffalo Trace and they had the high water mark on the wall.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure we're pretty close to that mark again. Um, So yeah, it's pretty devastating. I mean, for big distillery, small distillery, small communities, large community, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's super widespread, and
Yeah,
it's been a beast of a month so far, and
for
it's
sure.
it's just the middle. It's not even the middle of April.
Yeah, and it's like when natural disasters strike, um, you really can't do much about it, right? And I feel really bad for Buffalo Trace, and people are going to be like, "Why do you feel bad for this multi-billion-dollar conglomerate?" I feel bad because the people there don't get to go to work. They don't get to go to do what they love to do because if you go to those distilleries, any of them, and I'm just talking about Buffalo Trace, they love what they do, right?
Yeah.
And um, they just had this multi-million dollar renovation on the gift shop and all these things. And I mean, you got water that leaked all the way into the rick houses, um, up on the main campus. Um,
Mhm.
and so that's devastating. It shuts down, roads. So people couldn't get to different areas like J Mattingly, or people couldn't get into work. People lost just crazy amounts of stuff. Like that's the thing. We focused in on the distilleries, and everyone's like, man, that's a big deal about Buffalo Trace. But like the people that are impacted by all of this is the worst part.
Yeah, and it's not even just the big distilleries. You mentioned Mattingly, which had its access cut off, but down the road the other way,
It's Creek.
yeah, Glens Creek, which is the old Crow distillery, they had a lot of barrels lost, and they don't have a lot of barrels.
Yep.
They're not like producing hundreds and thousands of barrels a year or a month or whatever. But I didn't hear anything about Castle and Key, but I assume just due to the setup out there, it's probably been closed all week.
Mm,
And so yeah, it's pretty wide reaching. And then just downtown Louisville has been a mess.
yep.
And so I don't know. I'm ready for sunshine and receding waters and
Hmm.
warmer weather and derby time.
Yeah,
L- You know,
for sure.
a little bit of joy and happiness rather than
Well, definitely. And I
craziness.
mean, this weekend was supposed to be a lot of fun too because it's supposed to be Thunder over Louisville, and Thunder over Louisville is canceled. That's an economic impact to downtown Louisville, Kentucky that Derby doesn't bring, right? Thunder over Louisville is for downtown.
Mm,
And you're talking about millions of dollars in lost revenue for these small businesses. Um, and that's tough. And like the Derby Festival down there is going to be a sloppy nightmare this year. So I'm interested to see how they pivot. All of those things. But the good thing is there's still whiskey being made in downtown Louisville. You can still get to different places and try all that. Like every day, the Science Center tells me they're open. So if you want to go see
yeah, you
the
get
Science Center,
the member alerts. Yep.
yeah. So you got a lot of things, but all in all, there was one big tragedy. I'm not going to talk about it, but it did happen in Frankfurt. That I'm aware of, that involved a little kid. But outside of that, it seems like it was just home damage, and displacement, which that sucks a butt ton. But
Yeah.
luckily, most people, if 99.9% of people were safe, and my thoughts and prayers go out to that family that had that situation happen, and thoughts and prayers to everyone who was affected by the tornado and by the massive flooding we've had. And it's impacted all the way up to, Cincinnati and onward as well.
Yeah.
So it's not definitely just local to us, but it's definitely regional.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
It's been a wild time.
for sure. And shout out to Whiskey Weather because he kept me very closely engaged, where like most weather people got me like on edge and like my heart was palpitating. He, gave good information, but he also like equated it to drinking. So it made some lightheartedness of it all. So if you're not following Whiskey Weather, give him a follow on YouTube. Good content and nothing like a weatherman that likes to drink bourbon.
I like going up to Cincinnati and visiting Courtney's family because, well, turn on the news or whatever late at night, and he'll pop on. I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely cool to see, how he uses his talents in both spheres for sure. But to talk a little bit about something a little more lighthearted, a couple um, months ago, we're gonna rewind this all the way back to July. Um, One of our good PR partners, Amy Preske, reached out and asked if we wanted to try Jay Mattingly, and we'd been talking about it for a long time, going and seeing them. And you were able to get a bottle. I think it was their double stave. And that really piqued your interest, which then, led me to be like a dog on a bone to
Yeah.
go and like make this happen. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that bottle only lasted like 3 or 4 days in Florida.
Uh, yeah, probably amongst the three or four of us that were drinking it. Yeah, it lasted a couple days, couple evenings. A few cocktails, several neat pours, some cigars.
Yeah.
But
Bottles.
that's one of those bottles, like when I opened it, I was like, this bottle's not gonna last long.
Sometimes, man. Sometimes,
Yeah.
Um, and ever since then, we went to track down, an opportunity to get to Mattingly, in Frankfurt, right in the heart, right across the street from Buffalo Trace, really, in all honesty. And we got to go there. Was it March? Was it February? I don't know. Time flies.
Yeah, I think it
Um,
was early March, maybe the very end of February. So it's
yeah,
been a little over a month. Yeah.
a little over a month, and we got to get to understand what J Mattingly 1845 is, and what goes into that. But most importantly, we got to do this really cool VIP J Mat private blending experience. And if you're looking for something unique on the
Mm.
bourbon trail, this might be the one thing that I would say gets bourbon lovers or rye whiskey lovers or light whiskey lovers an opportunity to really get hands-on in bourbon and whiskey that you won't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm really not familiar with. Is there any other place that's allowing you to do blends?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's lots of like regulations and things like that, and single barrels are probably a whole lot easier to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this was definitely one of those unique experiences that I'm glad we got to do.
For sure.
Because I'd heard about, a lot of places. We went to Whiskey Thief. You get to thieve from a barrel, fill your own bottle. Like that's that is a unique experience. Very few places do that.
Yep.
But even more limited than that was something like this, which I thought was pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think the really cool thing about it was, it's an unassuming strip mall type of location. You walk into a tasting room where you can go and try some neat pours. They have a flight experience. They call it the Magnificent Seven tasting. So you can drop in and do that pretty much anytime. And then we got to see a little bit of behind the scenes production in their little tiny engine that could still, as they lay down, a couple barrels a year, not not a week, a couple barrels a year. And they
Yeah.
some cool mash bills going on there. But then you walk into this room and you kind of look like you're in a little bit of a cellar dungeon thing. And there's these group of 20 barrels. And they're set in fives. So you had a light whiskey station, you had a traditional 21% rye MGP mash bill, you had a 95.5 MGP rye mash bill, and then you had a Kentucky mash bill, all at various ages. I think, the Kentucky was the youngest stuff that we tried. And the light whiskey was the oldest stuff that we tried. And so I think it was a really unique setup because you're kind of going in there like, what am I gonna do? And so, for
Yeah.
you, we walk in there and they're like, we're about to do the experience. What was your first thoughts of kind of how the setup was?
Yeah, I mean, I was at first I was like, holy cow, we're gonna get to taste all of these. Probably a good thing we really didn't.
Yep.
Um, but they kind of, lay it out for you. Like it is, you pick your pod.
Yep.
really. And I thought that once we understood that, it was like, okay, this is probably a little bit less overwhelming than I thought it was going to be.
100%.
Um, but of course, we wanted to dive into everything and be like, I want to try this and try that. And so you're kind of like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to like narrow your focus, like right when you get there. You're like, do I want to do bourbon? Do I want to do rye? And I think I knew what I wanted to do right away, and I think you were just looking for something a little bit different, which um yeah, it's like you see this wall of candy, and you're like, oh, let me get this bag, and then I'm gonna start mixing all the, you've done it.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, go to a candy store and just start dumping stuff in a bag, and you're like, what did I create? A
Yeah,
monster.
exactly.
Uh,
Uh, yeah, and I'd never not really been familiar with light whiskey, so I was like, let me try light whiskey. Maybe that's what I want to do. And he was like, all right, there's rules and regulations. So shout out to Dakota for making sure that Jay Mattingly stayed compliant during the entire process. Um, and things I didn't know, like, the amount of whiskey that you can have on a tasting experience at a distillery is not a lot. Like, in all honesty, it's not a lot. So we had to rely on our sniffers quite a bit, and making this experience work. We did get to try like a little baby pour of light whiskey, but you had a decision to make. Was it Kentucky bourbon, or was it going to be the traditional 21% mash bill from MGP? I was kind of like, if it's a Friday, if it's Friday, it's Rye Day. You know what I mean? And I just kind of went with the rye whiskey,
yeah, went
which
went
is
down
no
that
problem.
rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, and it was a good rabbit hole to go down as I sip my one of one Friday bottle. You'll see pictures of this of Scott and I's bottles. 117 proof and small batches is the best way to say that. I took 3 barrels and batched it together. It is a small batch.
Yeah,
Get this whiskey.
yeah. Yeah, so I ended up going with the MGP bourbon, so the Indiana bourbon, 21% rye. And the unique thing, and we haven't really talked about this, but the unique thing about this is it's not just wheeling in a barrel
Barrels.
of MGP rye, MGP bourbon. Everything they do is what they call double staved. So they are breaking down barrels, charring them, and then inserting that wood back into the the whiskeys, and so everything has like a double oak component to it, and then they
Yep.
have various levels of char that they're doing. Some of those are kind of interesting names. um I think I had to write it down because that was let me find this real quick.
And I think it was like heavy char, but they call it something different. And then they had a toasted one. So they had a variety of ways, and they put the number on them. So some of these, like, you're like 21 heavy char. You're like, what? Like,
Yeah, they're coding the numbers, and if you want to get nerdy about whiskey too, it's like you got mash bill, you got age, you got, you know, they had proof on it, right? I think,
yeah,
yeah, they had
proof in the
estimated and
barrel. Yeah.
proof. Yeah, out of the barrel. But then they also had like their stave profile, which was light char, heavy char, medium char. I think there was even like a toasted.
Yep.
Um, but the one that was most interesting to me was the heavy deep penetration.
Oh yes, the old heavy deep penetration. That was a term that made us both chuckle for
And
a few minutes.
and that was the one that I was going to stay away from.
Yep.
I was like, oh, I'm not a heavy char type person. Like that might be a little bit much for me. But ultimately, as we know, that went into my blend.
Yep. This too shall be in my blend. So, it's really interesting. I'm looking back on mine. So I picked 3 different barrels. I think you went with a 2 barrel blend, actually.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was a first blend of 60, 30, 10. Something was off about that. Uh,
Hmm.
and so I ended up going with a 50, 40, 10. So the back end component was kind of the roundedness that I needed, but I needed some more creaminess And so I had to bump my blend up in my second barrel to that 40 and drop 10%. I'm sipping this right now, and man, toasted type of rye whiskey is just absolutely phenomenal. Like
Hmm.
I just really like I like double oaked rye whiskey. I like toasted rye whiskey, and this is kind of a mashup of the two. And you can't go wrong with 95.5 rye. Like it's just so traditional. I mean, that Indiana
Yeah.
style is so good. And so I really glass number two, 117 proof. Doesn't really feel that way. I'm actually going to drop some water in this glass just to see what it looks like. But I mean, the oiliness of this and the complexity of it. I mean, I have a lot of rye whiskey bottles, as you know. It'd be hard to find one that I like a little bit better than this one.
Nice. Yeah, and I'm glad that we've actually let this meld
Yeah.
for a month or so. I mean, it's probably improved just incorporating because when you're blending right then, you're kind of trying to get a homogeneous product, but I'm sure there's still some levels of separation in that whiskeys or in those whiskeys.
Oh, there's got to be. I mean, there's no
Um,
way that that whiskey comes together that quickly without some fattiness being separate. And did I enjoy it? Yes, of course. Like I wouldn't have said like let's bottle this if I didn't enjoy it. But
yeah.
um, letting these sit in here and like the richness and the complexity and the yeah. I mean, I think this is like 5 to 6 year old MGP rye whiskey. Um, and so you're probably like Jake Scott. Like, what did you pay for this? Well, you know, thank you PR teams and our payment is to podcast, and to promote the brand. But for $175,
Mm.
readily available, I might add you. Like I'm looking at the dates. There are dates pretty much every day they're open that you can go to this experience, and you might get to hang out with Dakota. You might get to hang out with somebody different. But I can think of a lot of crappier things that I've probably spent doing bourbon activities that are $200 than getting a custom blend that no one else in the world has but me.
Yeah, one of one.
One of one.
Now, after I revealed what my blend was, I feel like a couple people in there were like, "Ooh, we might need to write this down."
For sure. They did like it because you had a honey barrel component that a couple of them liked, and you incorporated in there, and they were like, "Ooh, that's kind of nice." And then Dakota tried it, and he was like, "Ooh, that is nice."
But
Um,
yeah, but I balanced it out a little bit. I felt like the one that they were leaning towards a lot kind of required a little bit
yeah,
something else. But yeah, so yeah, it's $175, which is an interesting element of that is also it comes with two bottles,
yep,
so you can put one on a shelf, for your display or for a rainy day, break in case of emergency. But then you got your other one, which you just open right away, or you can get two full size bottles. You can upgrade, and so I thought that was really cool. You can kind of add um,
add to your
bottles.
experience.
Yeah, you can add bottles to the experience if there's something you really like. And they even told us a story of a guy that comes in and makes his own blend and basically numbers them. So
Hmm.
he's up to like whatever number they were saying, but he'll come in and make a variation of something and then just make it the next number. So
Yeah.
it's good gifting opportunity too. I think that was pretty cool because it's all fully custom,
Yeah.
as people can see from our photos. Fully custom label, fully
Bottle.
custom
You pick your
bottle
bottle.
shape, um,
Color your
wax
wax.
color. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're not only getting to customize the whiskey in the bottle, but you can customize pretty much everything else,
Yeah.
within TTB regulations.
Yeah. And it's a good group experience. So you can do up to 6 people in the experience with you. So that's a nice to have. I think one of the other things I think is very unique about it, you're not rushed in the experience whatsoever. It's really thoughtfully done. And the bourbons are always changing because they're open, and the whiskeys are always open. But then they roll in new barrels. As if they like something so much, they'll roll it out and they'll put something new in there. And they're not giving you like crap barrels. They're giving you barrels that they truly believe in, that they've done the work to create. And I think that is a testament to what they're creating there at Mattingly. And, eventually some of their own bourbons will roll into there, maybe 5, 10 years from now. But they've got some really um, great barrels that they've sourced over the years that you can choose from to create your blend.
Yeah, and I'm just overall impressed with the experience. Like, I would recommend this to a friend. Just if
Yeah.
they were on the Bourbon Trail and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to Buffalo Trace." I'm like, "Hey, if you haven't stopped at Mattingly, just swing over there for an hour and a half." How long did that experience take us? I mean, obviously we did a little tour and things like that and chatted for a while, but it was well over an hour, hour and a half that we were there blending and then getting to talk with the people like when he's actually, dipping the bottles for us, making
Yeah.
sure that the labels are, applied and everything. So it was like more than just here, make your blend, we're going to do it and we'll ship it to you. Now you can do
Yeah.
that too.
But it's
Um,
it's right there. You get to leave with that customization. Um, it's perfect for today's consumer, right? Today's consumer is convenient and I want it now, right?
yeah.
All about this. Convenient, you get it now. Um, you could go back to your hotel, with your buddies and drink it that night if you wanted to. I think the other thing is this is something that is on, the eastern part of the Bourbon Trail. Um, we talk a lot about the central part and the Louisville part of the trail, probably most often, but the eastern trail is getting bigger, especially with, things like this. Castle and Key, obviously Buffalo Trace, even though they're not part of the Bourbon Trail, it's basically a Bourbon Trail thing. Um, and then you have Wild Turkey, upgrading their visitor center. Four Roses upgraded their visitor center, so you can stay in the heartland, the capital region of Kentucky, and
Yeah.
go to a lot of cool experiences. And this might be, a great way to cap off a day, right? With this, and so you're not necessarily stuck in Bardstown or stuck in Louisville. You can explore Frankfurt, Lawrenceburg, and really get a good understanding of bourbon culture in more central Kentucky.
Yeah, there's a lot to experience just all over the state. So, and that's what I always suggest too when people are planning like a trip. Don't try to do it all.
No,
Don't try to do it all and like find that pocket of interesting, that cluster of interesting distilleries or interesting of, places to visit or go to eat or whatever it is.
yeah. Well,
So,
and now's the time, right? So, a couple things that we have to just make abundantly clear. If you're looking at coming to Kentucky distilleries this summer, book now. Um,
yeah.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
When this podcast drops in a few days, Scott's going to be editing quickly on this one. We have on the 17th, Kentucky Bourbon Festival tickets go on sale. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter and get early access to that so you can get it on the 16th, and buy your ticket right away. They're going to sell out. It's just going to happen.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially if you want VIP, you got to do it.
yeah,
Like you got to do it that day because I think they sell out like same day or next day.
minutes.
Yeah.
Minutes. Um, so you have that, and then I think, you know, uh, lastly, it's Derby season, right? So horses are running at Keeneland currently, which is a beautiful track, and then we're going to make its way down here to Louisville, Kentucky, the first week in May, slash end of April this year. Late Easter, early Derby. Um,
Ugh. Yeah.
and it's a little bit of a whirlwind, but you got that, and man, Derby 151. What's going to happen? I've been keeping up with the horses a little bit this year. There's looks like a great field of horses, um, and so obviously you got to get there. You get your horses got to get to the Derby, but it looks like it's going to be shaping up for a great Derby and a potentially great Oaks as well. The weather's just got to cooperate, but anything's possible. I think.
I feel like we've gotten all the rain out of the way. the past week and a half, 2 weeks.
You know,
Hopefully, knock on wood.
hopefully it all comes full circle in this podcast on that comment. But yeah, I can't. Not we can't recommend this experience probably enough. You're probably like, all podcasters get so hype about the one thing. Like, no, this is really cool. Like, you're not going to be able to do this anywhere else. So, like, if you want something cool, it's under $200. You're going to go blow that money on trying to find some rare bottle that's overpriced anyway. Go get
Make
you
your own.
something.
Make your
Go
own
make
rare bottle.
make your own rare bottle. It's one of one. Like, no one else has it.
Yeah.
And you get to pull a cool name on it. So, even more funny.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that.
Yeah.
Bourbon blends and
Friday.
Friday
Yeah. And I plan on going back multiple times now and doing just the series. So I need 3 bottles.
next
So it's
Friday.
next Friday and then Friday after next. Um, and so, I have to get my blending component. So I know I'm at least going 2 more times
At least 2 more times just to do the rye.
just to do the rye.
Yeah.
I have to come up with some uncreative way to do bourbon and maybe light whiskey. Because literally I'm like the most uncreative person on
Yeah, I was gonna
planet
say
Earth.
I was struggling for a while there too. Just,
Yeah,
there's a
but
lot of
but you
options.
you you came you came through clutch. I thought bourbon blends was good.
Yeah, I think so too. I was pretty proud of myself.
I was proud of you. I was like,
Yeah,
Well done, Scott."
it's like pat on the back.
Yeah, the lawyer came to play that day.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an exciting time. We got a lot of new content coming up. There's some new releases happening. Um, there's just a lot. I mean, bourbon sales and whiskey sales may be down, but it doesn't stop the innovation because it is flying fast and furious. So make sure you're tuning in to all types of our channels because we're going to be talking about a variety of different things over the next several months, and weeks and days. Just, it's hard to keep up with it all.
it's a whirlwind,
It
as
is.
it always is.
But you know what we do? We fill up our glass, we cheers it, we drink it, and we just go
I'll
on to
do
the
that.
next thing. Well, Scott, as always, it's always a pleasure hanging out with you for a little bit, catching up on all the good things, and especially talking about our experience here at J. Mattingly. If you want to know more about them, I'd say the best thing to do is just go to J. Mattingly's website and book everything there. They have a Instagram, social media as well, so check them out there. And if you have any questions you want to ask us about our experience, offline, if we were going to give you the same exact conversation, the answer is yes. We'll tell you
Hmm.
all about it. But excited to have you, and make sure I'm really going to harp on this. Our Patreon tasting club is pretty damn cool. And I'm not just saying that because we do it. Like, our members are freaking fun. Like, they're a great time. So the day this podcast drops, we're gonna have Isaac Winter from High West join us. And so May is going to be big time. Don't know what it is yet. We plan it on the fly, but May is going to be fun. And so the summer months. So those things are going to be hitting soon. So if you are interested in supporting us in that way, we'd love to have you join our Patreon tasting club.
I was
Um,
gonna say you could join today
you could join today.
and join us tonight.
Exactly.
You
I
just
like
won't
it.
have the whiskey, but you can always do it for next time, right?
It is. I can always send you double samples. Um, but really appreciate, Scott, your time this evening. Thanks everybody for listening to us. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers. Man, this got better.